Hi, it's Betsy Jordan, and this is Behind the Curtain IMO. A number of years ago, North Carolina had a governor. His name is Pat McCrory. During Pat McCrory's tenure, we lost the film industry. We lost several businesses, possibilities for businesses to locate in North Carolina because of something they called the bathroom bill. It was a ridiculous bill that basically was saying, who it had to do with transgender and gender equality kinds of issues, or that's what they made it into. It was ridiculous because the way that a lot of proprietors handled it was they just made everything unisex. And people were joking, look, I have a unisex bathroom in my house. I have 4 of them, And then people who were having trouble with that phrase not come to their party because they don't realize that every bathroom in every personal household is generally unisex. It's a ridiculous thing. But what it meant was that there was discrimination, and it was legislative discrimination. And there's a gentleman running for office who actually was one of the originators of that bathroom bill. And he is running for Attorney General. We don't want somebody who's going to be discriminated willfully in our state to be Attorney General. His name is Dan Bishop. And the guy who's running for that position on the Democratic ticket is none other than Jeff Jackson. And I would suggest that you find a way to follow Jeff Jackson. He's one of the most prolific social media posters out there. And he will tell you, right now he's in Congress, and he will tell you what's going on behind the scenes in Congress. And it's minute to minute kind of information. And I find it to be very, very useful and very helpful in understanding what Congress's decisions have to do with overarching policy. Because when they don't agree with the president, for example, they're going to block bills or keep bills from coming out of committee, which means they don't ever get considered as law. And there's a lot of gaminess in that whole situation on the congressional floor specifically. So there are a lot of things that President Biden has been blamed for example. It looks as though he doesn't support certain things. The reason is because there has been disagreement on the congressional floor, and he can't do anything about it. There's been more bipartisan legislation passed, though, in his presidential term than one might imagine he could have had that happen. But it's because he's got long-term relationships with people. What I want to say about the whole idea of the shift in the legislature in North Carolina specifically, and it's happened in many, many states, there have been concerted efforts to have more and more conservative legislators who really want to tell you what a citizen of your state looks like. So the result of that concerted effort to install more and more conservative legislators, and I explained gerrymandering in an earlier video. As a result of gerrymandering, we are getting more and more legislators that are representing states more from an ideological perspective than from a complete representation of their constituents. So it's needed from you, the voter, is to really do your research, because there are plenty of Republican legislators who are saying, this does not represent my party anymore. It does not represent me anymore. I had the unfortunate experience of being it was a fortunate experience on the one hand, because I was on the North Carolina Film Council. I was appointed by 2 governors, and we were building an industry in North Carolina. It was a $7 billion industry. And a handful of people in the legislature basically took money from organizations that really wanted the film industry in Georgia. the Cathy brothers, the Koch brothers. They took contributions from these guys. Like I said, they were already working a deal to build a studio in Georgia. And we knew on the Film Council that they were copying our incentive program, which was one of the most successful in the country at that time. We built a $7 billion industry. There were 4 major television shows in our state at the time that they came in and paid our politicians and basically took it away. The bathroom bill killed it, right? Killed the film industry. Of course it would, because that industry tends to be very socially conscious. Now, a lot of things like that happened where the legislature that became more conservative was dismantling Democratic programs and then reinstituting them in order to take credit for them. Now, I got to tell you, that's a very cynical way to lead. And I'll tell you more about that fight to keep those really good nationwide examples of progressive programs for the good of our state. They were systematically dismantled. And because they were, and then they were reinstituted, people think that the Republican Party represents the state very well. But no, they didn't institute anything that was a new idea of theirs. They reinstituted what was strong, working Democratic program because they didn't want Democrats to take credit for it. It was simply that. It was very much about, their image and not about substance. And I need to tell you, I see that in so many things that I'm witnessing, that it's all about image and not about substance. So this is Behind the Curtain, in my opinion. Thank you for being here.